everybody. Welcome to our webinar this morning, Resources to Connect Job Seekers with Your Openings. We're just going to wait a minute to let a few more people come in, and then we'll get going.
Okay, are we ready to go? All right. Well, listen, thank you all for joining us today. It's another beautiful Friday. This is week, 11, I think now, of the sort of disruptive period of our lives and our business cycle that we find ourselves in. And I just want to say again how much I appreciate all of you tuning in, participating with us on our Friday webinar series. We've gotten a lot of really great feedback. Today's program is a little bit different, a little bit more targeted, really focused on the components of our economy that are continuing to operate at full steam. In some cases, companies that are busier than they've ever been as new markets emerge in the wake of COVID-19. I would say, just based from our own survey data, we think there's about 12 or 13% of our businesses in Central New York that are seeing or experiencing growth, and in some cases really significant growth as a result of what's happened. Some of that is because of markets that have been disrupted. Some of that is because of changing business models. Some of it is just because of opportunities that folks have had as maybe some of their competitors have been forced to shut down in other states. Regardless, while we work to support all of our businesses who are struggling and really wrestling with the challenges associated with COVID-19, we've also been working really hard to try to similarly support our businesses that are experiencing these opportunities in this moment. And I think last week's announcement by Amazon is just another good indication of the fact that there are growth opportunities amidst this pandemic. And if we're going to come out of this stronger here in Central New York, we have to capitalize on those. And we have to view these companies that are looking to grow, looking to hire, as opportunities for us to invest time and resources. So today's program is really, as you see on the screen, it's to try to help you connect to resources so that you can find job seekers, you can fill the openings you have, and you can maximize productivity for your business in this unique moment in time. We're really thrilled. We've got three great panelists, MJ, Joan, and Heather, who are going to speak with us here today. It is, as always, our chat feature is open. Feel free to ask questions that you might have of us in the chat feature. We'll try to come back to them and get them throughout the program. At the top of the program, Amy Durfee, our Director of Workforce Development, was welcoming all of you. She's going to help us moderate some of the questions and discussion today. And as always, if there are specific questions for your business that you are looking to have answered that maybe we don't get to today, feel free to reach out to us at support@CenterStateCEO.com. That is our generic email we've created for all of our COVID-19 response. We have people monitoring that email 24 hours a day, triaging it to the folks on our team who can help you. We're here to be a part of your solution set in this moment. So I'm going to stop there. Thank you all for joining us, and I want to turn the program over to our first panelist, MJ, and just a phenomenal partner of ours from CMI Works. MJ, the floor is yours.
Great. Thanks, Rob. It's a pleasure to be here, and I want to say on behalf of the Onondaga County Workforce Development Board, I'm very pleased to present how the CMI Works Career Center can connect businesses and job seekers. So if I could have Krista advance to my title slide. We are located at 960 James Street in Syracuse, New York. However, we too are working virtually. So I encourage you to connect with www.cmyworks.com. And I'm going to show you a couple of screenshots shortly at our website. But the content of my presentation is going to be on the different business engagement opportunities that are available to you as a result of the local Workforce Development Board and our funding streams. Probably the most critical thing that we're doing right now is we are providing job postings and matching. So Krista, if you could advance to the next slide. This will be the content of my remarks today. I'm going to speak briefly on each of these subject areas. There are 6 that I'm going to focus on, beginning with the job postings and matching. We have always provided a job posting site on the CMI Works website. We have increased our numbers of postings there, and we encourage business opportunities there as well. And I'm going to speak to a few of them when I get to show you those screenshots. In partnership with the New York State Department of Labor, we coordinate and do job matching with the open positions that employers have with the available job seeker pool in 2 ways. Those individuals who are unemployment insurance recipients who are in the system and have participated in identifying themselves through Job Zone, as well as cases and individuals who are in the caseload for our workforce advisors. So what we do our best to do is where we are able to identify a potential job seeker who's a viable candidate to do a referral, we do the matching process and specifically have a way to do that with the New York State Department of Labor and our business services partners locally. Probably the most vital thing that we do is we provide small businesses and all businesses, but in particular, these are incentives for small businesses to get workers into different aspects of their position. And the most viable that we do are on-the-job training contracts. And this is where we will provide an employer with up to 50% of the training cost to hire a new person, with the understanding that the appropriate skills for the job need to be identified, and then the skill gap becomes a training plan, and we would pay 50% of the starting wage for up to 26 weeks to ensure that that individual receives the appropriate training to be successful as anybody they're working next to at the conclusion of that training, with the understanding that that person will be maintained on that payroll and that the position leads to sustainable full-time employment. We do a number of OJT contracts with our employers, and we are always looking to do more. So I will also speak to how you can make a contact with us to get that connection. The next 2 incentives are incumbent worker training, and we provide incumbent worker training support also by providing reimbursement to employer for 50% of the training costs. And the intent behind incumbent worker training is to build and maintain a quality workforce to avert layoffs, as well as for individuals to obtain skills to retain employment, with the understanding that there's going to be pre and post skill sets, as well as the resulting wage. So we will be looking at what is the pre-training wage, and will an incumbent worker training do 2 things: ensure that the workforce is retained, that individual can continue to be employed, but at the conclusion of the training, that they're in a position to have the opportunity for a post-training wage. So we look at those as well. The next training piece is customized training support. This is a version of pre-employment training where an employer or a group of employers look at what the training that needs to be to fill positions in their respective openings. Individuals participate in the customized training. The employer would be reimbursed for that training, with the understanding that the individuals who can participate in the training will be hired at the completion of the training. So those are incumbent worker training and customized training are 2 employer supports where the employer is providing the training. CMI Works will reimburse up to the 50% of the training costs. What we're doing virtually, and this is really through a very strong partnership in the leadership of the Onondaga County Workforce Development Board, is we have the Metrics Learning online learning platform as a part of our Career Center. We are getting ready to launch very soon a platform that's called Skill Up CNY. It provides metrics learning access to job seekers as well as to employers. And we are able to have employers go in and look at what their job needs are and be able to identify potential job seekers as a match. And we can speak more detail at another time about how Skill Up works. And I would encourage you to contact our Workforce Innovation Coordinator, Marcy Grenier, who is leading that effort on our behalf. Similarly, for all registered CMI Works Career Center customers, as well as referrals, we have the Metrics Learning platform that provides more detail. We are currently working on developing badges in a very strong partnership with CenterState CEO and the work train pieces and health train in particular, we have identified some badges that will support job seekers as they complete training and complete the badges that employers can then identify and say, I know what this badge is and the training that went behind it. And when somebody's coming to me with a badge on their resume, this is something that I know will be a pre-employment prerequisite. And speaking of pre-employment prerequisites, we are also working with a number of employers to identify and support them in creating some pre-employment assessments. So we would be doing some screening for employers based on their pre-employment assessments and then providing the referrals to them based on what those assessments be able to provide the respective outcomes. So this is just a very quick overview of job postings, matching, OJT contracts, incumbent worker training support, customized training support, and the two pieces of metrics learning. One is skill up and the other is the more intensive metrics learning curriculum. With that, Chris, if you'll go to my next slide, please. This is what the CMI Works landing page looks like. And so right now, because of where we are, we've increased our announcements page. And what you will see here is immediately the links to certain positions. So in terms of job postings, we link to the Onondaga County open positions on their website. We are also linking to New York Hire Now, immediate hiring, and I'll show you that site as well. We also have our business services where open jobs could be posted there. And we provide the support and coordination between CMI Works and the New York State Department of Labor to support and assist you in getting your jobs posted, as well as the technical support. When you click on that link, gets you to an InDemand Jobs at cmiworks.com, where we will support those job postings. And we also have the job search tab, which also will provide the link. On the next slide is when you're so Chris, if you could move to, thank you. On the next slide, this is as you were on the CMI Works website, you would scroll down and you would see this page. And there's 3 active links at the top. One is for job seekers, one is for business services, and one is for youth. Each of those links would get you to the direct place to be looking at the services that are provided, and it includes the overview that I provided previously. Probably what's most critical is the CMI InDemand Jobs. So that is a posting site that we've always maintained, but that's also cross-referenced with the jobs that you saw on the previous announcement page. So this is where job seekers can go and look at what the CMI Works InDemand Jobs are, as well as use the other vital links that are on that announcement page. And then if we'll go to my next slide, please. Really what our intention is to provide job seekers with a really wide variety of employment options within our community. It's our task to support and link job seekers to the employment options in support of our businesses. So what's the variety of things that are available in the central New York regional economy are what are here and available on our website, as well as connecting them to our partners. And the last slide that I want to show is what the New York Hire Now link looks like. So when someone clicks on this link, this is DOL, it came out as soon as the pandemic started. These are immediate hiring opportunities focused on essential jobs within our community. It is updated in real time, tells us the number of jobs that are in Syracuse, New York, and allows people to query based on title and keywords. And this is updated and scrubbed from the master New York State Department of Labor list specifically for Syracuse, New York. So for someone who is looking for an immediate hiring opportunity in an essential position in our regional economy, this is another very, very valuable resource. And with that, that concludes what I have to say today. Look forward to any questions people may have. And more importantly, we encourage you to connect with us so that we can support you and your hiring needs going forward.
Great, MJ, thanks so much. And I just can't say enough about how much we value your partnership and all of CMI Works. Clearly, the connections between employers and those seeking work are one of the most fundamental components of making this system work for everyone, right? Work for the job seekers and work for employers. And you guys have been great partners in that. So if you do have questions for MJ, please feel free to put them into the chat. We're going to get through our 3 presenters, and then we'll have some open time for discussion and get to those questions after we get through.
Thank you, Rob. It's our pleasure.
Okay, next up, we're really fortunate to have Joan here from the Westcott Community Center, another one of our great neighborhood-based partners here in the city of Syracuse. Probably about baseball's throw away from where I'm sitting right now. Really appreciate you joining us, Joan, and all that you do as well.
Sure, thanks. So I thought today I'd start off a little bit about telling you about our overall model of workforce development. So if you can go to the first slide. So we have formed a community center collaborative. We have 4 community centers serving over 20,000 individuals in the city of Syracuse who believe that through our collaboration, we can not only better strengthen ourselves, but better strengthen our community and fill those gaps. So that's Huntington Family Center, Syracuse Northeast Community Center, Westcott, and Syracuse Community Connections. We're located right in folks' neighborhoods, and individuals and families utilize our centers for a variety of services and programs, but they also develop those trusting relationship with our staffs and our centers. We're really truly part of people's daily lives. So our target goal for developing this workforce development model was that we would be reaching folks living in our neighborhoods and utilizing even some of our other services. We also partnered with 2 additional community centers for our workforce development model, which were La Liga and the Dunbar Center. So we thought that through this model, we could reach really the true city of Syracuse with our supported employment workforce development program. So a little bit about how that's structured, if you want to switch to the next slide. So we've got this structured with a director of supported employment, and his name is Joel Majuk. And so Joel works to lead this effort and to help provide not only technical assistance and training for our supported employment specialists, but he also works to establish those strong relationships with local employers. He works directly to meet their needs and to find out what exactly our specialists can gear up and get our folks ready and trained for. The workforce development staff meet on a regular basis. They meet every week to talk about local opportunities and employment and to share strategies and to talk about client need and additional training opportunities. Then our partnership with CenterState, we work with our work train coordinator, and her name is Tanya Graham. And she works to help individuals who are interested and could benefit from the variety of work train skills training programs. She guides them through the enrollment process. She supports them during their classes. And once they complete a work train program, she refers them to one of our employment specialists. So again, we've got the 6 supported employment specialists located at all these variety of community centers, and they work with our community residents in the city of Syracuse to support they're supporting individuals in those neighborhoods looking for the employment, and not just looking for employment, but looking to build their skills. So when they meet someone that is interested in gaining employment and skills, they conduct a job readiness assessment. And this really helps us better understand the client's education level, skill level, and their interest level in employment. What are they looking for? What can they do? And our clients come in with a variety of skill levels, folks that are ready to go to work, folks that are ready to advance their careers, and then some that are at that really basic level of employment. And then once they do that, they find out whatever additional skills, education, or training they need. They get them into these programs. We work with a variety of community organizations to get them both additional training in soft and hard skills. And then we work to get them ready. We also conduct mock interviews with our clients and get them ready to be out there in the workforce and feel more confident about the things that they can do and getting them ready to get out there. We help them with resumes and cover letters, and then we connect them with employers and the jobs that match those interests and skill levels. Also, besides doing that, we give clients supports. So we can purchase for them things that they might need to start a job, or we can pay for bus passes, or we can pay for childcare. So this really supports someone's ability to get out there and removes those obstacles in finding the things that they need for work. And then lastly, once someone is employed by an employer, we stay with them and we make sure that they're navigating their workplace properly. We give them any supports they need and help them through their first 6 months of employment. And then, so that's basically our program model in a nutshell. We've had really great success. Our employment rate has worked out really well, and our folks that are sustaining employment through this program has worked out really well. So Joel Majok would be your main point of contact to let him know whatever jobs you might have or things that you might want to work on. And he also has brought our specialists to different workplaces and met with employers individually with the team so that we can better understand your needs for employment and how we can answer it with the folks that we're sending out there to you. And then my last slide, because my presentation's fairly brief, this is the contact information for all of the folks in our program. We've got Joel and Tanya, and then the 6 specialists, and you can see they're located throughout the city of Syracuse. And really, that's it for me.
For that overview, really helpful. I just want to share with folks. We're trying to provide a high-level snapshot today of some of the resources throughout the community. Obviously, the workforce system is a big system. There are lots of other partners, and so again, if you as you're listening, if you have specific questions, don't hesitate to put them in the chat or reach out to us at support@CenterState CEO. We'll get you connected. Next up, I think we are turning things over to Ben Sayo. Ben, for those of you who know, Ben is our Chief of Staff here at CenterState CEO. He is also one of the individuals who's been primarily responsible for leading the Good Life CNY initiative that we've partnered with Advanced Media on, really designed to help us attract really skilled talent back from other parts of the country to relocate here in Central New York. Ben's going to talk a little bit about the Good Life and the various ways it can help support your business. Ben?
Thanks, Rob. You just did my entire presentation for me. I'm kidding. Krista, next slide. So, as Rob said, I think we're trying to give you kind of a perspective here on the wide range of programs that are available that all kind of work together to serve the various aspects of kind of talent and workforce development needs in our community. And the Good Life CNY kind of takes a different approach and has a different kind of core audience or core customer than our 2 previous speakers, in the sense that we're really targeting this effort on mid to high skill talent and bringing that mid to high skill talent into Central New York from outside the area. We actually launched this program about 9 months ago, which was a very different time in our community, right? But it was really a result of what we were hearing from a lot of employers at the time, that the workforce development system was working fantastic in the community, but they still needed more mid to high skilled talent to come into the community to be applying for their jobs. So there was a fair amount of good people moving between jobs, which is a sign of a healthy labor market, right? But there were still so many jobs available that we needed to figure out new ways to get new people into the workforce, but also new ways to bring additional people in from outside the area and make it easier for those individuals to find out what working in Central New York really looks like, right? So this initiative really focused on that latter piece, right? It was a collective effort to better brand and better market Central New York to talent thinking about, or that could be thinking about moving to Central New York to find a job, right? So, and it's got 3 kind of core components that every couple of years we've launched similar initiatives to something like this. We usually have them focused around the business cycle. When there are a lot of jobs that become available, we think about these kind of activities a little more. In the past, though, we haven't really been able to invest a whole lot of money into that actual branding and outbound digital marketing piece. And this time is a little different. We've been able to put a fair amount of money into outbound ads, outbound branding, and some promotional opportunities outside of Central New York. So it's possible you may not have heard about Good Life, and it's because we don't actually market inside of Central New York. There's a ton of other fantastic programs that are working on that. You've heard about a lot of those today. This is all focused on outbound efforts. So why don't we go to the next slide, and I'll keep talking a little bit about what we're working on here. In addition to kind of the branding component, there is a web platform and landing page for folks that are interested in, that click on some of the marketing that we do, or that Google what's jobs in Central New York. They come to the site and they begin to learn a little bit of what it's like to live, what it's like to work, and ultimately what jobs are available here in Central New York. And the important thing about this is it's targeted specifically at that audience. It's not a travel website. It's not a website for folks to find businesses to do business with. It's really meant, and it's messaged towards individuals that are either here and are looking for a new job, or more so individuals that are considering moving to Central New York and are looking to explore and discover what's going on in the community. And you may say, who is looking to move to Central New York? Is that a big population? And the answer to that is actually yes. Before COVID, and we'll talk a little bit about the impacts of COVID, we were beginning to see a change in population movement and migration that was really exciting to us, right? So, the narrative for Central New York over the past 50 years has been the loss of population. People graduating college and moving out of the area, people graduating high school and moving out of the area, people retiring and moving out of the area. And over the past 5 years, we actually begin to see some reversal in that trends. And it's not widespread yet, but it is beginning to happen. And most importantly, it's happening in the age set between 25 and 34-year-olds. We began to see population increase for the first time in the 2010s of those aged individuals, right? So these are people that already graduated college in most cases, and they're beginning to either stay or move to Central New York, more so than leave Central New York. We actually began to see a reversal in some of our closest, largest population centers like New York City and Boston and Philadelphia and Washington, D.C., where traditionally we would lose a lot of that age of individuals. Now we've closed that gap. We in the last data we looked at, we were gaining more individuals from New York City, and the loss to Boston and some of those other communities had declined at the time, which is really exciting for us. Overall, population still is declining in Central New York, and that's primarily because individuals of retirement age still are moving out of the area. I can't fix every problem in our community, so we're focusing on one here, and that's primarily figuring out ways to increase the beginning of those trends that we saw of young individuals thinking about Central New York as a place to start their families, to expand their job, to buy a house for the first time, all those things that you've heard in the news recently. The next piece about that is the impact of COVID. We've seen a significant increase of traffic on the Good Life site since beginning of March. And we believe that's primarily because there's the beginning of a trend, and it's not quantifiable yet, but we see it starting in some of the leading indicators of people looking to move out of large population centers in the Northeast, in the Mid-Atlantic, and in the Midwest. So we are beginning to change our marketing and change our narrative a bit to better reflect some of that increase of movement and capture some of those individuals coming here. We think it's a great opportunity, tough issue for some of those large population centers, but if it is happening, we want to make sure we're prepared and that we're actually figuring out ways to capture that. So next slide, please. And I'll show you some of the, actually, I must have cut that slide out. We've got more information about some of the ads we are showing in some of those markets. We're actively promoting in New York City, in Philadelphia, in Boston, in Washington, D.C., in the Midwest, in Chicago and Detroit. We get a ton of attention from Detroit right now, which is interesting. Also Little Rock, Arkansas, we're getting a lot of hits from, which we're trying to figure that piece out. But if anybody's interested in seeing some of the ads we're actually running in those communities, just reach out to me separately, and I'm happy to connect you with some of the promotional opportunities we're doing. On the back end, though, we saw a big need, and this is my final slide, so I'll wrap up soon. We saw a big need, though, when we were talking to potential people that are interested in moving here, for them to learn about what are the actual opportunities in Central New York? What are the jobs? Who's hiring? Who are the companies I should be looking at? If you go on Indeed or if you go on LinkedIn, it's kind of tough to understand who are the good companies and what are the companies that we may not encourage somebody to work at. Obviously, we encourage people to work at all the companies on the line here today, but people just wanted a better way to think through and to sort through those companies. So we created a real-time job board that is really focused on companies that have that promote their jobs online. That's kind of the prerequisite to getting in here. So if any of you have your jobs online and you don't see yourself on this job board, reach out to me separately and we can get you in. We do have room for additional companies in here. But it's real time. There's no need for companies to go in and upload jobs or anything like that. It happens all automatically behind the scenes. So you don't need to worry about that. We see a lot of interaction on the site from people scrolling through this list of Explore companies, finding out, CPS Recruitment or Infocon or M&T Bank, what the jobs look like there, and clicking directly to those job pages directly to those company pages to actually apply for jobs there. There's also a talent network. We've actually seen the network of talent increase pretty substantially in the past couple of weeks of more job seekers coming into the site, both internal to Central New York, but also external to Central New York who are thinking about moving here. When they come in, we can get eyes on them. We can understand who they are. We can see their LinkedIn profiles, and they themselves can begin connecting with the companies that are listed here as well. Next slide. Okay, so I'm going to pause there. There are opportunities for you all to get your jobs on here if you are interested. If they're not already in there yet, you can connect with me offline after the fact. I'll put my email in the chat box so you can have that. But I'm going to finish then. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Ben. It's been a really well received initiative. I think we've had, we certainly had a tremendous amount of traffic pre-COVID. We're starting to see that traffic start to tick back up. And I think strategically, we certainly believe that there is an opportunity for places like Syracuse in the recovery as folks do flee from higher density environments and they're looking for a different lifestyle alternative. I think that plays very much to Central New York's strengths. So we'll continue to pursue that, and anyone who's interested in learn more can feel free to reach out to us. We'll be glad to connect you. Okay, our final presenter here today, last but certainly not least, a great partner of ours, the Downtown Committee of Syracuse, Heather Schroeder, who's our Director of Economic Development and has been one of the co-leaders in our Generation Next initiative. She's here to talk to you a little bit about what that is and how it might be helpful to your business.
Great, thank you, Rob, and good morning or almost afternoon, everyone. So before we get into the slides, I wanted to describe a little bit of why this Generation Next program that I'll be telling you about came to be. And I apologize if you're hearing sirens out my window. Something's going on in Westcott today. So Generation Next came about because we were looking at the results of the Talent Task Force survey, which showed that about a third of our employers reported having trouble retaining talent, particularly among professionals of color. And so it was not so much an issue to attract talent here for accepting jobs, than to keep those people in Syracuse, in the community, and rising through the ranks of the companies was proving to be a challenge. And we looked at, some of the causes behind that were a lack of community infrastructure, a lack of plugging in for newcomers to Syracuse, especially if you're coming from a larger city. It can be very difficult to find your footing in Syracuse. And we said, so let's create, a dedicated organization and initiative to help address that issue. So we have all of these great, mid to high skill positions open, and we can get people here. Sometimes we can't get them to stay, or some employers are having trouble attracting talent from other cities to begin with. So this really ties into the Good Life initiative that Ben was describing. That's the how. How do you get the word out? Generation Next is really the why of, why are people choosing to come to Syracuse, and how can we make that case? In light of our labor pool issues of, we found from the Talent Task Force survey that a lot of our graduates are leaving town, but a lot of those graduates would qualify for positions that are here. So that indicates a quality of life issue that we're looking to address. Next slide, please. And so Generation Next, this is our brand new logo that was created for us by Black Cub Productions, which is a minority-owned production company in Syracuse. It's actually one of our success stories. Two gentlemen who were recent SU graduates were planning to go back to LA, and Dr. Johanna Rogers, my colleague who couldn't be with us today, who I'm subbing in for, persuaded them to stay. She said, what do you need? And they said, we need opportunity. We need connections to the community to drum up business for a production company. And she said, well, we can provide those connections for you. And that's really what Generation Next represents, is how do we help people plug into the existing network? Next slide. And so this is an initiative that really seeks to attract and retain that diverse talent by creating a network of opportunities, by creating a network of jobs, and also the social scene as well. Next slide, please. So you can see we've laid out the vision, mission, and objectives of this initiative, but really what it boils down to is that Generation Next is a fund to support diverse programming by existing groups. You know, there are wonderful organizations within our community that are already doing work, but maybe need a boost in order to get the word out and to get that done. You know, for example, well, let me give you some examples of Generation Next initiatives to date. So this was just launched last August 2019. So if you haven't heard about it yet, it is a relatively young initiative. It was started with seed money from M&T Bank, and our first event was a kickoff at the State Tower building on one of their terraces for young professionals of color. And we said, let's come together and let's talk about what you need, what community you want to see in order to create a sense of place in Syracuse. And then we had an event at Syracuse Stage for the world premiere of the play Thoughts of a Colored Man. And we had a facilitated discussion afterwards, and to say, you know, how are our experiences relating to the content that we saw in the play. And then just a couple weeks ago, one group supported a virtual community celebration sponsored by Generation Next. And this was applauding our recent graduates here, both in college and from high schools, for their successes, and also providing some community linkage, you know, in light of all the separation we're feeling right now. So we had performances by Symphoria, we had a reading by Syracuse Stage, you know, we had local performers, we had the Symphoria Youth Orchestra, a member, perform. And it was really wonderful to see both the performances and the address by different leaders in our community. Next slide, please. So there are three major elements to Generation Next. One is leadership cultivation, saying if you're a young person in college or even growing up in the Syracuse City schools, what opportunities can you look forward to when you choose to stay in Syracuse? You know, what is there at the end of the rainbow when you complete your studies? You will have job opportunity here. You will have a sense of community to plug into. The programming is the next element, and that really comes down to you know, making sure that people can feel at home. So one example I have is I recently met someone who moved here from Europe for a job at one of our engineering firms. And you know, he's 30-something, rented an apartment in our downtown district, and said, you know, it was really hard to plug into the community here, being from you know, a completely different part of the world. You know, he's coming from a big European city to Syracuse and knew that he wanted to live in a dense urban area. And yet the relocation consultant that the company had hired to assist him was saying, oh, you know, come look at these suburban communities and these housing options. And it was really a mismatch between, you know, the needs of a young professional from a larger multicultural market and, you know, the understanding of how to fulfill those needs. And so he's very happy in his downtown apartment. He's already plugged into different meetup groups for, you know, drinking craft beer throughout downtown. And of course, there'll be more of that after the COVID restrictions are lifted. But, you know, it's just one example of how to create a plugin. Strategic marketing is the next one. I mentioned our work with Black Cub to do our branding and promotion. And this is really also looking at the content that we're all providing in our advertisement. If you're advertising for jobs, you know, what does your workforce look like? What could your workforce look like? You know, are you representing the diverse personnel who you currently have or who you aspire to hire in your marketing materials? Really taking a step back and looking at, you know, what representation of Syracuse businesses we're putting out to prospective job seekers. Next slide, please. So I mentioned some of the programming that we've had thus far. You know, some additional programming that we're looking at supporting. There's an international outdoor, you know, plein air dinner event called Blanc Night that I think started in in Paris, and Dr. Rogers has been excited about bringing that to Syracuse. Several other major cities throughout the US have introduced a Blanc Night. Everyone shows up wearing the color white to a surprise location that's announced the day of, and you all share dinner together. These kind of cultural touchstones are really fun and are something that, some of our newcomers to Syracuse are used to seeing in Detroit, in St. Louis, in these bigger markets that we're trying to attract from. How do we get the word out that Syracuse is both an inclusive and a modern city in terms of our programming? We're just as fun and interesting as these other places. My personal story is that I'm a Generation Nexter, in that I grew up in Syracuse, left for education in the workforce for over a dozen years, and I returned to Syracuse for a job opportunity. And I kind of came back kicking and screaming, thinking, I'm coming here for a job. Is Syracuse really the market I want to be in my young 30s when I moved back? And it really surprised me. I was able to find those connections and to find kind of where I fit in this market. But I also had the reference point of having lived here before, and I recognize it's much more difficult for people who have never come to Syracuse. So we're looking to find that soft landing pad for them, and also provide the representation that can be lacking in a lot of our business materials. So these are some of the other initiatives we're looking to support. Board representation, leadership paths within companies. Are you finding difficulty filling a particular mid-level management position in your company? Reach out to us. We may have a different network than the one that you're currently using, and we're more than happy to provide those introductions. The best way to get involved with Generation Next is to send us an email, generationnext@centerstateceo.com. Be added to our mailing list and our materials so that we can make sure that when we have events, you and your employees are aware. We certainly have sponsorship opportunities for branded events as well, to help get the word out. Oh, thank you, Krista. I was speaking on the next slide already. We have a fellowship program, and we're also looking at, from a downtown perspective, only about, less than 20% of our downtown storefronts are minority or woman-owned. In this day and age, we certainly have more opportunity for better representation in our businesses. If you're coming to Syracuse for the first time and you're looking for a place to hang out, you want to patronize business owners who look like you, who can share an experience. And we really don't have enough of that representation yet for both minority and women-owned businesses in downtown storefronts. So we're looking at building up a storefront support fund to help diverse businesses open within our downtown district. So I think I'm probably over my time. Clearly, we have a lot to say on this issue, so please feel free to follow up. Again, Generation Next at CenterStateCEO.com. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Heather. So let's jump into some questions here. One question really is for any of the presenters is about challenges for job seekers. And one question I want to link to the question in the chat about assistance that's available for people who don't have their own vehicle when companies are not on a bus line. MJ and Joan, maybe you can launch
Sure.
us in this topic about what are resources available for transportation, and then other challenges that you see that job seekers have to securing a job.
I'll go. Transportation's definitely a huge issue for many job seekers. We do work a little with Providence Services, who offers shuttle services for folks that need it. They do have restrictions. There's, it's early morning and later in the evening. They can't do shift work but that is one place we've had some success working with. Additionally, I know we do provide bus passes, and yes, folks need to be closer to a bus line. But we have done some stuff with Uber and Lyft just on a temporary basis because, of course, those services cost more. We're also looking in right now to funding for ourselves to additionally get more vans to help with this kind of service. Transportation definitely is a key issue that needs a lot more support in our community. So we're really working to looking at ways to do that.
I echo Joan's remarks. There are very limited funds with very strict criteria for transportation support. So I think it's important to recognize that transportation is a critical issue. Much like Joan, we do work with Providence and provide bus passes, again, in a limited capacity based on our funding sources. But transportation is a very significant issue for job seekers in our community, and I think it needs to be addressed at a much higher level than what I'm able to provide, and probably Joan's in a similar situation when it comes to resources.
Just want to invite people to keep putting those questions into the chat. If you have questions on any level around helping people find employment, or your challenges as a business owner finding the right people. Another question for our presenters: what kinds of factors should employers be thinking about when they're marketing a job to find the right talent? Anybody? That's a tough one, I guess.
Tough one.
Yeah, I'll jump in, and maybe Heather can comment on this also. So marketing a job to find the right talent. I think what we've seen over the past 5 years is the ability to shed light or visibility on your job or your opening is incredibly different than it was over the prior 20 years, right? A lot of times people just relied, and they still think they can rely on just putting stuff up on the internet, or, you know, quote unquote, the online classifieds. If I put my job on Indeed, it's going to get out there and people are going to apply. And I think we found that's probably the baseline of what every single company needs to be doing to at least have a place for people to go and learn about opportunities at a company. But we see that the companies get the most attention, frankly, are the ones that go above and beyond and think about different ways to get their name out into the public that aren't necessarily just associated with job openings and job opportunities, right? So a lot of companies use stuff like best places to work as a way to get their name out, as a way to show that they are, they have a good culture, they're an exciting place to work. We see a lot of companies that bring in a fair amount of talent, have their name in those kind of things. There's a statewide one, there's a Central New York one, there's even a national one that is more focused on the fastest growing companies that have been featured. Actually, a couple local companies that had that before. Getting your name in the newspaper, actually, shows a lot of activity. I won't name any names, but companies that have moved or opened new offices and have opened cool offices and have gotten those offices, those cool workspaces in the media, or the fact that they're expanding and they're adding jobs, and that's been in the media, that's always driving more traffic to those companies. So figuring out ways that, one, you can create the kind of culture and experience that makes people want to work there, and then figuring out ways to shine some unique publicity on those has been tools and strategies that have worked for a bunch of companies locally.
And I can add a couple specifics to that then. So I saw that the 40 under 40 nominations were just opened. Nominate your young professionals for this award of distinction in the region. They'll get a lot of publicity for your company, and you can also go and celebrate them at the ceremony when they're awarded next fall. It shows that you support your employees, and it also helps get your name in front of readers of these publications. Also, Leadership Greater Syracuse they take about 50 professionals every year for their leadership development programming, widely publicized which companies are sponsoring their employees to participate in that program. There's also great networking that happens there. I had several classmates when I did Leadership Greater Syracuse who jumped from their current employer to an employer they'd met through the program. So I would say send your best and your brightest to that, and they can help you recruit as well.
Yeah, this is Rob. I would just chime in there. I think something that Ben was speaking to, and Heather also, that I certainly saw pre-COVID, and I think is likely to persist throughout COVID and after COVID. Companies that advertise more than a job, that present a career, that present a workplace, that present a culture, I think is the term that Ben used. Definitely one of the things that we've seen be more successful, particularly for higher skilled positions, not surprisingly. But I think it's also true even in some of our fields with lower skilled jobs, and in some cases unskilled jobs. We've seen some of the, just over the course of the last 10, 11 weeks. I mean, I think we've seen companies like Amazon and Walmart that are typically viewed as relatively low skill or no skill jobs talk about their companies in different ways. And we've seen local companies do the same thing, I think, to some degree of success. So just think about how you're presenting yourself in the market. Think about what people are looking for, and often they're looking for not just a job, but they're looking for a group of colleagues. They're looking for an opportunity for advancement. They're looking for an opportunity to grow themselves and support their families. And I think more so now than ever, those messages I think are likely to resonate.
The only other thing I'd layer in as a kind of final point here is we've seen across all skill levels, across all industries and all types of jobs, referral programs work, right? So if you have employees that like working for you, and they know that there are job openings, they're going to tell their friends, they're going to tell the people they come into contact with, they're going to be your best promoters. And I've seen it happen with PhDs, and I've seen it happen with jobs that require zero training and zero skill ahead of time for folks that are coming into work, an assembly line or something like that. And in some cases they are incentivized, get $500 if you bring somebody in. Some cases they're not, but that tapping into your own employee network and also tapping into community networks, right? So the community centers that we talked about earlier is a really fantastic way to get into different networks that you might not be able to hit through regular promotional opportunities or just regular networks, but using your employees to do that and also using the entities that are working with people on the ground in some of these neighborhoods can be really, really successful in doing that.
Yeah, and as an employer, ourselves at CenterState, I would just offer that one of the best things that we've done from an ability to recruit talent standpoint is that we participate every year in the New York State Best Places to Work For survey, and there's certainly there's some benefit, right? We've been named as one of New York State's top places to work in the small business category for 3 years running. I'm super proud of that. But that's not the primary benefit is not the visibility or the logo or the sticker on our marketing materials. The primary benefit is that we get every single year, in fact, twice a year, we get direct feedback, that is in a format and a survey that goes out to our employees. We get direct feedback from our employees about what they like and what they find challenging in our work environment. And some of those things aren't always fun. As the person who sits in the corner office, it's not always fun to hear the things that your employees are frustrated by. But not hearing them is worse than hearing them. That's how we address them, and that's how we continually strive to build a better culture. It's just like you would do with your customers, right? Constantly listen to your customers and the voice of the customer. I think applying that same approach to the voice of the employees, I think is one of the most successful ways that we've seen businesses be successful. Amy, I think you had one more question that came in through the chat, and then we'll close it up and head home.
Yeah, so just to close the loop on how people listening in this webinar can connect with each of our speakers. So it'd be great if MJ, Joan, Ben, and Heather just say a couple words about what's the process, what does that look like, and just to also let everyone know, we'll be sending you a link to the slides so you can get all that information. But MJ, can you just say a little bit about what that process would look like?
Sure. So for anyone, if you go to the www.cmiworks.com, there's a place where you can contact us. And it's also info@cnyworks.com, as well as I did put into the chat for InDemand Jobs at CMIWorks.com will get you directly to Workforce Innovation Coordinator Marcy Grenier. And you can also telephone CMI Works at 315-473-8250.
Joan?
Yeah, sure. I included in my slide presentation Joel and all of our specialists' contact number, both their email and their phone numbers, and for many of them, their cell phone numbers. So Joel would be your first point of contact for that, and especially if you want to develop a relationship with him and our program in future, job openings to come, and have our specialists learn a little bit more about what you're looking for in an employee. So yeah, Joel would definitely be your point of contact.
Ben?
So two things. The site is free. The site, we want people to be using it in any of your recruitment efforts. So goodlifecmy.com is the site. You do not need to even contact us if you start sending the site to people that you're trying to recruit or talk about working here in Central New York. If you are interested in getting your jobs on the job board, just reach out to me at my email. I put it in the chat box. It should be up there just so you can see it. And I'll get it set up for you. There are sponsorship opportunities to elevate your profile on the page and to get some additional goodies as part of the effort. If you're interested in those, I can talk you through those as well.
Heather?
So Generation Next has been sponsoring Tech and Culture happy hours on many Wednesdays. That information is available through CenterState's website. We have a Facebook page. You can search for Generation Next, which is a community group in Syracuse. And of course, our email, generationnext@centerstateceo.com. We hope that you will share this initiative with your employees, make sure that they're aware of the programming that we're doing, as well as consider sponsorship opportunities.
Great. Well, Amy, thank you for helping to moderate. To our speakers, Joan, Ben, Heather, NJ, thanks so much for your partnership and all that you do. You see up here a handful of resources. As always, find us at support@centerstateceo.com. Getting and fielding all day today a lot of questions about phase 2 reopening and the confusion that's been reigning in the media over the last 24 hours. Unfortunately, as of this moment, there doesn't appear to be a resolution. We're hopeful that we may have one, whether it's today or hopefully by tomorrow. But it is unfortunately still a fluid situation. A lot of frustration, understandably, as people have been hoping to get open today. But we appreciate your patience. Reach out to us and let us know what your specific concerns are. Thanks for all you're doing to keep our economy moving, and we will look forward to seeing you again next week. Enjoy the weekend, everybody.